Wow, so what the fuck happened? God, Bernie Sanders had the presidency. He had it, right? Winning at least the first two out of the three, maybe the first one. And then what, Joe had fourth place, fifth place, and now everybody's saying it's all Joe's. It's a different narrative, new era, new age. But it does not look good for Bernie Sanders. Last night, Stupid Tuesday, Little Super Tuesday, after, so basically Bernie Sanders has, with Super Tuesday, he was stabbed multiple times, and then on Stupid Tuesday, he's just bleeding out all over America. He's on the ropes. He's blackened and bruised and battered and tattered. And in a way, is he a professional loser? Is this what he just, shit, what the fuck? I'm about, I'll always vote for Bernie Sanders for as long as he wants to run for president, but my days of being a cheerleader are almost over. So, first the results. Bernie Sanders won North Dakota, which was the smallest prize, 14 delegates, but Bernie Sanders won a state. And I'm going to go ahead and declare that he won Washington. He's only up by like 0.1 or 2% of the vote. But I'm going to go ahead and declare it, right? Bernie won Washington, North Dakota, Utah, Colorado, New Hampshire, and Nevada, and maybe Iowa. And then there's a couple other states, Utah, Colorado, California, right? So, okay, what happened last night? So, North Dakota and Washington. In Idaho, Bernie Sanders got 20 delegates. Joe Biden got 9. Bernie gets 7. He's only 2 delegates down. 4 delegates are still up in the air. Mississippi, 36 delegates are total. Joe gets 29. Bernie got 2. That's 5 delegates. There's 27, delegate difference there. 5 delegates are up in the air. That's a major hit. And, fucking dumbass Mississippi. Anyways, Missouri, 68 delegates. 40. Joe. Bernie, 23, 5's up in the air. Michigan, 125 delegates total. 53 is going to go to Joe. Bernie Sanders gets 35. 37 delegates are still up in the air. Washington is 89 delegates. And Bernie and Joe have a statistical tie, 17-17, which is very disappointing. There's still 55 delegates left to be distributed. North Dakota, 14 delegates, Joe 5, Bernie 5, 4 delegates are up in the air, still waiting to be figured out. So, if you just add all those numbers up, Joe Biden only gained 64 delegates. So that's not terrible. That's not too bad. 110 are left to be figured out. So if we just assume for shits and giggles, Joe takes Mississippi's 5 dangling delegates. Bernie takes North Dakota's 4 dangling delegates. Joe and Biden split the difference with the rest. Then that's 65. All in all, that's not terrible. Not a massive beating, but a terrible beating. It's a beating nonetheless. Bernie needed a victory here. He was 300 down. Now he's 365 down. So Joe Biden has got out in front of Bernie Sanders by 65 delegates. But if you, put it in that context, you need 2,000 delegates to clinch the victory. So Joe got out in front 65. Not a bad, not totally terrible. When you look at the states, right, 4 states to 2, that doesn't sound very good. But if you look at the delegates, 65 down, Bernie was able to somewhat, stem the flow. But so I wanted to do an update on the delegates of the other candidates. Where does the delegates of Pete's and Amy's and all these Bloomberg's, those at-large delegates who are assigned to go to the state conventions, they're freed up to vote for the other candidates at the state convention. And then those who are assigned to the congressional districts are freed up after the first round of voting is over at the national convention. So those assigned to the congressional districts are pledged to vote for the candidate that they're pledged to vote for. After the first round of voting, then they're free to vote for whoever they want to vote for. So what does that mean? It means most of these delegates are going to go for Joe before the convention, and so Joe can expect to get at least half of these votes of, Amy and Pete and Bloomberg's, and then the other half on the second round. The second round, you're going to have a bunch of super delegates, and those fuckers will probably vote for Joe too. And so that means Bernie had to win the first round, and he had to win the majority. He had to win overwhelming majority to where it was clear as day, to where there was no doubt in anybody's minds. So, because he had an avalanche, he had to go up a mountain while an avalanche was coming down at the same time. It was already an uphill battle. It was an already uphill battle. and now he's 365 delegates down. 365 delegates, which isn't insurmountable, but according to my calculations, he's down 365. There's 577 delegates are up in March 17th. Northern Mariana Islands, March 14th at 6 delegates. There's a debate on Sunday, March the 15th, and then next Tuesday, 577 delegates are up. So next Tuesday, Bernie has to get a miracle. This has to be a Hail Mary pass. This has got to be the most October surprise ever. You got to have an ace in his pocket. He needs a skydiver, pick, Elizabeth Warren or AOC as his VP or something, for God's sakes. And then also let us know if you're going to go all the way to the convention, because that's important to note too. So Bernie needed to win today, if only by one. If only by one. In order to reverse the momentum. And so that means next Tuesday, he was supposed to win today, if only by one, to reverse the momentum and then win big next Tuesday. That's what I originally said he needed to do, so I'm going to have to stick by that. I'm not going to change my own goalpost and just, stay a starry-eyed teen fanboy. So I'm not going to stay forever hopeful for a dream that the American voters and the non-voters outwardly and resoundingly reject. So Bernie needs a miracle coming up with these next 4 states. And it's Arizona, Florida, Illinois, Ohio, 577 delegates, if you include the Northern Mariana Islands, and it's, 583. Arizona, Florida, Illinois, Ohio, very conservative states. So I don't see, it doesn't seem like he's going to, a Hail Mary pass. He's going to have to win these states. Arizona, for once in their life, or Florida, Ohio, these states are going to have to pick a socialist leader. That's who we're dependent on in order for him to pull a Hail Mary, a miracle, and, an ace out of his pocket. So if we assume a modest victory, let's assume Bernie wins, okay, on next Tuesday, 55% to 45, a 10-point victory. It's a net gain of 60 delegates, so that actually subtracts yesterday's stupid Tuesday, and now we're back on track, but Bernie's still down by 300, but the momentum has been reversed. So I do see if Bernie Sanders can pull a 10-point victory next Tuesday, then he can subtract this, beating, this loss, yesterday's loss, and then with the momentum, with the wind at his back, perhaps Bernie can then gain, he can gain on old Swift Boat Joe, old Steamboat Willie. Obama just barely got out in front of Hillary, was able to hold on to his lead all the way to the convention. So immediately Bernie needs to announce the vice president, get all of his endorsements lined up, and talking about him at a super rally, have a bunch of super rallies, bunch of endorsers, a bunch of people. It needs to up the rhetoric. We need to remove the cancer that's in this White House. We need a war on poverty. I'm preparing to coast. I'm not going to cheerlead, not be a fanboy, but I'm going to live my life. If Bernie wins the nomination, I'll vote for him in November. I'll vote for him. Colorado voted the right way. I voted with Colorado, for the correct man, for the good man. So I think that our generation may always have ourselves a dream that never dies, just like Edward Kennedy used to talk about. The dream that never dies, having a socialist leader, a nation where college students are shackled by a massive 6-figure debt that comes along with a piss-poor education, a nation that doesn't go along with endless forever wars, massive deficits, police brutality, homelessness, poverty, lack of access to courts or centers of power, or really water and basic necessities. So it's a brand new era, it's a new age, it can be a different narrative. Bernie and Tulsi could go into the convention, threaten to make Paul Rudd the president, nominate Paul Rudd, a man who can unite this country, or maybe Angie Tribeca. Angie Tribeca. So back when American politics was American politics, we didn't just concede, we went all the way to the convention. So here's a list of some of the kind of craziest conventions, just real quick, that I found this morning. In 1844, James K. Polk. He's an unknown politician from Tennessee. He's going to be a dark horse candidate who wins on the 9th ballot at the 1844 Democratic Convention held in Baltimore, Maryland. James K. Polk, beat future President James Buchanan, James C. Calhoun, Richard M. Johnson, and former President Martin Van Buren. So, you know, James Buchanan, James C. Calhoun, Martin Van Buren, but James K. Polk beat them all. He welcomed Texas as a slave state into the U.S. as long as Oregon was adopted as a free state. The Morse Telegraph told the nation about Polk's victory in Baltimore that year, and then Polk is going to get us into the Mexican-American War. But he won on the 9th ballot, so people get, you know, they're all terrified and afraid of a brokered convention. It was, you know, it seems like it's always been brokered conventions up until modern American history. So 1844 took 9 ballots. So it wasn't the first or the second or the third. It took 9 ballots, and then James K. Polk wound up being victorious. It took 3 ballots for Abraham Lincoln. He was a long shot, but on the 3rd ballot, he got the Republican nomination in 1860. In 1920, Warren G. Harding, he's going to capture the nomination after 10 ballots. So, 1920 Republican Convention in Chicago, Illinois, June 8th to the 12th, 1920. There's 940 delegates, and joining the League of Nations was the hot topic of the day. So, back in 1920, the Republicans, you had to get 2/3 of a majority in order to capture the nomination. 2/3 majority, which is, you know, kind of insane. What a huge high threshold. 2/3 supermajority. That's not just a plurality. That's not just a simple majority. That's a super duper 2/3 majority. So Warren G. Harding won the Republican nomination when he got 66% of the votes on the 10th ballot. And then it said that the strategy was Warren G. Harding wanted everybody to for Warren to be the second or third pick. So they wanted all the delegates. Maybe Warren wasn't the favorite. Maybe Warren wasn't going to be the top number 1 guy. But the strategy was to make Warren everybody's number 2 or number 3 pick. And by making them the number 2 or 3 pick after the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th ballot, then it was like, you know what? He was from Ohio. He looks good, looks fine, good compromise candidate, and he had no enemies. He wasn't attacking the front runners because he was aiming to be number 2 and number 3 by the 10th ballot. Then, bam, it's Friday, late, 1 o'clock. You got about 12 men still left in the room, and they're like, okay, shit, guys, this is getting out of hand. Who the fuck are we going to pick? And then they say, let's back Warren. And then that's how Warren G. Harding is going to get the nomination. So it takes 10 ballots for Warren G. Harding, right? And then he beat Calvin Coolidge, Robert M. La Follette, Fighting Bob of Wisconsin, and also future President Herbert Hoover. So the Hoovervilles, right? So Herbert Hoover, Coolidge, Fighting Bob, he beat all those guys on the 10th ballot, and then he's going to pick Coolidge, or somehow they're going to be running mates, and I'm not sure how they did the vice presidential pick, but they ran on a campaign from his front porch in Marion, Ohio, and then Warren G. Harding is going to win the presidency with 60% of the vote. So an overwhelming, you know, a pretty good, decent little majority. Not, you know, 2/3 supermajority, but it beats a simple majority. Much bigger than just a simple majority. So he gets the mandate of the people. So that's 1920, Warren G. Harding. You know, 1920 at the Republican Convention, it took 10 ballots. It took Abe Lincoln 3 ballots. It took James K. Polk 9 ballots to get nominated. And all these guys eventually go on to become president. So even though they had, you know, basically a very rough and tumble, you know, convention, once there's a decision, once the people come out and make a decision. Now, the last one I want to mention is 1924. This is supposedly called the Klan Bake. There was a presence of the KKK there, but there was no pictures or anything, so they kind of blow it up. But the Klan Bake, I feel like it might be always known as the Klan Bake. 1924, this is the Democratic Convention, June 14th to July 9th, 1924. The KKK was popular back then because of Woodrow Wilson and the birth of a nation, and it was the second rise of the KKK. They also got the 18th Amendment, Prohibition passed, so they made alcohol illegal. So there's 20 candidates on the second ballot, and then there is 58 candidates in total. But out of all, there was 103, an unbelievable amount, an unbelievable 103 ballots that the Democratic Convention in 1924 went through to pick a losing candidate, John W. Davis. McAdoo won the primaries, so McAdoo was the one that won the elections amongst the American people, and that was the first real race in the history of the Democratic Party. The first time they actually had primaries in the states, and McAdoo was the one that won. William Gibbs McAdoo of California, good old William Gibbs McAdoo. First Democratic convention broadcast on radio. John William Davis had the steely blue eyes. That's really all he was known for. So Mr. Steely Blue Eyes is going to be picked on the 103rd ballot in 1924. And, of course, he doesn't become president. So 103 ballots there. So think about that. Talk about that insanity. Talk about a brokered convention. That Clan Bake was one of the most brokered conventions ever. So Abe Lincoln, 3 ballots. William G. Harding, 10 ballots. James K. Polk, 9 ballots, and then this John W. Davis, 103 ballots. So that means Tulsi Gabbard has a chance. Tulsi Gabbard has a chance. They can nominate anybody that they want to, and it's totally up to the delegates at the convention. If they're willing to, and strong enough to go all the way to the convention. So I've been thinking of some alternatives. So what do we do? Okay, if Bernie doesn't win, what the fuck are we going to do? Well, the first option, if Joe Biden was to pick up a bunch of Bernie Sanders' planks into his platform, if he forgave college debt, if he helped with the students, if he was going to have a war on poverty, if he was going to get universal health care, if he was going to do a whole bunch of stuff, end the wars, legalize marijuana, then possibly, maybe, if he actually got a real bold, progressive agenda like he bragged about. But, I feel like that's just not even, it's stupid to even consider. Dog shit is better than Donald Trump, and ultimately sleepy, creepy, dementia Joe is better than the fat, loud, arrogant, lying, creepy Donald. But it's not good enough. Joe's not good. He's not good. He's evil. We're going to have to pick the lesser of the two evils again. Joe ain't going to change shit. He literally promised the 1% that. Bold progressive agenda. Bullshit. He's only a liberal on AK-47s and AR-15s. In 4 years, the U.S. will still have poverty, still be in war, still have marijuana, still be the Schedule I, narcotic that it's labeled at today. It'll still be, it's 1984. My entire life I've had so many fucking presidents and still no fucking changes. Chris Hedges says that Nixon was the last liberal president. And is that true? Nixon is the last liberal president? I think it's mostly true. LBJ being the actual last, Democratic liberal. But whatever, Ronald Reagan was president when I was born. So Ronald Reagan, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump. So none of those are liberal. I've never had a liberal president in my entire life. So thanks, Obama. Total delegates, 4,000. You need 2,000 delegates left. Apparently, 2,000's a bit. So we're about halfway there. We're getting close to the halfway point. It's basically halfway over. So it's not over till the, Fat Lady sings. It's not over until the July convention, and there's a nomination, and then, then there's a whole general election after the Democratic primary is over. But it's basically halfway over. So my overall synopsis is Bernie is down 365 delegates if he is able to pull a rabbit out of his hat, if he's able to, somehow pull a victory, basically out of his, just have monkeys fly out of his butt, then, then it's over. If I feel like I won't cheerlead because I feel like it'd be a waste of time because I don't feel like I'm not going to run all the way to the convention thinking he's going to somehow overturn the apple cart and then, just be forced to vote for the neoliberal. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be, sheepdogged into the party. I am a Democrat, but I just don't want to be forced. I'll vote for the Green. I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden. He's a neoliberal. He's right-wing. I cannot in good conscience vote for a Joe Biden at all. Never, ever. In a million goddamn years. In a million goddamn years. I need a progressive. Give me a progressive or I vote Green Party. So what I'm saying is Bernie has a chance. It's, a fat, tiny, fat chance. 1 out of a million chance. Winning the lottery chance, getting struck by lightning or attacked by a shark kind of chance. So you're more likely to, fall over a Lego, a death by Lego than, but, miracles happen. So there's 26 states left plus D.C. and Puerto Rico, over 2,000 delegates left. You know, I guess I feel a little burned. 2016, I held on to the belief that he could pull it off, and then he's endorsing Hillary. So I'll be pulling for Bernie Sanders forever and ever until the day I die. I'll vote for him in November if he, you know, somehow pulls it off. And then 4 years after that, I'll keep on voting for Bernie as long as he wants to keep on running for president. I'm just not going to fanboy and cheerlead for him anymore. So I guess just in conclusion, next Tuesday, if Biden wins, or let's just even say Bernie and Joe are tied, Bernie has to win. There's no fucking shit. I'm not going to, no more moving the goalpost or, you know, no. If Biden wins, or if it's a tie, if Bernie does not win, then it's over for my cheerleading days, and because I don't believe he can get it back. We had victory in our clutches, and we had it snatched away from us. So then what? I don't know. I can't, in good conscience, vote for a neoliberal, so I'm going to check out the Greens, and they don't have a chance. So basically, I guess my participation in national politics is over. I'm going to focus on local and state issues. That's where 90% of real change happens anyways. So focus on the local and state issues. And, you know, I tried with the national narrative. I, you know, pushed Bernie as far and hard as I could. And, yeah, so this is very sad, very disappointing. And maybe Arizona and Florida and Illinois and Ohio will, you know, say they're not a bunch of right-wing conservative pieces of shit, but I doubt it. And so I don't feel optimistic at all, and it's a little bit sad and disappointed about this whole thing. So I hope he could pull a rabbit out of his hat. He's going to have to do something to shake up his campaign. Skydive, pick a vice president. You know, I don't know, maybe get a face tattoo. I don't know, maybe, you know, punch a Nazi. If Bernie Sanders was to punch a Nazi, I think that would, you know, help his campaign out. He has to do something to, you know, get the momentum to garner they got, what, just a bunch of endorsements? So he won South Carolina, then he got some endorsements, and now it just seems like he's inevitable, you know, snowball that just keeps on getting bigger and bigger as he's, you know, going down the hill. So Bernie needs to do the equivalent of that. Super rallies, get endorsements, and then, you know, and then some. Pick a VP. Something equivalent of skydiving, maybe a one-on-one basketball game with Joe Biden. Both two old men playing basketball. That'd be maybe a game of, you know, horse or something. I don't know. He's got you know, Sunday he's got the debate, and then Mariana Islands is, I think, Saturday, and then the Tuesday debate or elections, you know, 6 days away. If he's going to go all the way to the convention, you know, perhaps you could say in the long run you could see him, you know, overturn it. But like I said, Obama just barely got out in front of Hillary, and he held on to it all the way to the end. And he just barely, just by 10, 20 delegates or some shit, and they just held on to it all the way to the end, and to where basically there was, you know, nothing else that Hillary could do except for accept the Secretary of State position and concede the election. So yeah, that's my March 11th, 2020 report on this day, Wednesday, 9:38 a.m. John Masters, Southern Colorado. Day after shitty, stupid, little Tuesday. Man. Alright. Peace.